Bel Ribeiro-Addy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank the Home Secretary for early sight of the statement. Mr. Speaker, the Home Secretary and the government calls this a points-based immigration system. But Professor Alan Manning, the departing chair of the Migration Advisory Committee, derided this and called it a soundbite, that is, meaningless phraseology. The truth is, Mr. Speaker, that the government is introducing a set of restrictions on migration for work, including, of course, the damaging salary threshold. But this is not the sole restriction. Workers earning below this salary threshold are not low-skilled at all. There is no such thing as low-skilled work, just low-paid work. All work is skilled when it is done well. In fact, outside London and the South East, they are the majority of workers. Again, they are underpaid, not low-skilled. In trying to exclude their overseas recruitment, ministers run the risk of doing even greater damage to our public services than they have already done. Ministers must surely be aware that a key problem for the NHS is that, as its leaders tell us, the exit door is closed. Patients who are well enough to be discharged from hospitals are not discharged because they lack access to social care packages. Blocking the overseas recruitment of social care workers who are generally paid well below the threshold will cause major problems for social care. It is already in crisis and will exacerbate the exiting problems in the NHS. Ministers seem unconcerned. I must mention the need for the new NHS-specific visa. Surely the obvious thing would have been to create points for NHS jobs in this new system, but then I suppose the government would have to admit that the salary threshold is simply not feasible and admit that the system will just not work. It's certainly not a singular global immigration system, and it's already proving a number of exemptions will be needed to make it work. But social care and the NHS are not the only areas that will be hit. The government tell us that the unemployment rate is currently close to its lowest. This completely contradicts what ministers suggest, that immigration causes unemployment or creates slack conditions in the labour market leading to low pay. The Home Secretary seems to believe that the gaps can be filled by the economically inactive. I strongly doubt that this government intends to get carers, the elderly, students into work by raising their wages, but more likely is that they will cut benefits once again. Many employers report that they too will struggle to fill vacancies or even close the gap caused by the departing EU workers who will now lose their rights under this system. The requirement to speak English is a complete red herring. It's dog whistle politics. Most people who come here to work and the government system will demand that they come here with a specific job offer and come here with some English language skills and learn more as they go. It's very difficult to function in the labour market without English at all, which is why they already do speak English when they come here. Does the government intend to split up families? Does the government intend to split up families where the spouse or the child has less than perfect English? This would be cruel and inhumane. Does the government also intend to block the recruitment of scientists, mathematicians, IT specialists and so on if they have less than perfect English? If so, this will completely undermine ministers' boasts about global Britain recruiting the brightest and the best. In fact, it will tend towards recruiting only those who are the most desperate if their spouse will be blocked from coming or they can find employment in a country where their spouse can reside. And what to that of a family right to life in general? Will the new work visas allow the right to a family life? If not, which scientist or PhD professional would choose a country which doesn't allow their right to a family life? There's no justification for denying access also to public funds for a number of years. If you're working here, you are paying taxes. You and your family should have access to the benefits paid for by those taxes. This includes working tax credits. It also includes access to the NHS. Have ministers considered the public health implications of restricting access to the NHS in this way, even if they're unable to consider the human costs? And there is, too, the case of spouses who become victims of domestic abuse being denied access to refuges. This is shameful. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I would like to address a grave concern many of us on this side of this House have regarding workers' and citizens' rights. We cannot accept that work visas are tied to specific employers and want reassurances that this will not only be the case. Otherwise, the government will be creating conditions of bonded employment where the threat of dismissal implies the threat of deportation. This would be disastrous for migrant workers and their families and detrimental to the interests of the entire workforce.
Yeah.